Ibrahim, known as Abraham in the Western world, holds a unique position in the history of religion. His story transcends time and geography, resonating deeply with millions of people across different cultures and faiths. Born in the ancient city of Ur, in present-day Iraq, Ibrahim's journey is one of profound spiritual awakening and relentless pursuit of truth. His life is a testament to the power of faith and the human spirit's capacity to seek and embrace the divine. He is revered by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. Each of these faiths sees Ibrahim as a pivotal figure, a patriarch whose legacy has shaped their religious narratives and practices. In Judaism, he is the founding father of the covenant, the special relationship between the Jewish people and God. In Christianity, he is seen as a model of faith whose willingness to obey God is highlighted in the New Testament. In Islam, he is considered a prophet and a messenger of Allah, credited with playing a crucial role in the establishment of monotheism. In Islam, he is considered a prophet and a messenger of Allah, credited with playing a crucial role in the establishment of monotheism. The Quran recounts his unwavering faith and his efforts to guide his people towards the worship of one God. Ibrahim's story is interwoven with themes of sacrifice, devotion, and divine guidance. His willingness to sacrifice his son, Ismail, at God's command, is a profound example of his submission to the divine will, a story that is commemorated annually by Muslims during the festival of Eid al-Adha. Ibrahim's life story is one of courage, conviction, and unwavering faith in God. His journey was not an easy one. It was marked by trials and tribulations that tested his faith and resolve. From his early years when he questioned the idolatry of his people, to his later years when he built the Kaaba in Mecca, Ibrahim's life was a continuous quest for truth and righteousness. His determination to follow God's guidance, even when it meant standing alone against his society, is a powerful reminder of the strength of true faith. His willingness to challenge the norms of his society and stand up for his beliefs serves as an inspiration for people of all faiths. Ibrahim's story encourages us to question the status quo and to seek a deeper understanding of our beliefs. It teaches us that true faith often requires courage and the willingness to stand up for what is right, even in the face of opposition. His life is a testament to the power of conviction and the importance of staying true to one's principles. His story reminds us of the importance of seeking truth even when it is difficult, and of remaining steadfast in our beliefs, even in the face of adversity. Ibrahim's journey was filled with challenges, but his unwavering faith and determination saw him through. His life teaches us that the path to truth is often fraught with difficulties, but it is a path worth pursuing. It is a journey that requires perseverance, resilience, and an unshakable belief in the divine. Ibrahim's story is not just a historical account. It is a living narrative that continues to inspire and guide people today. His life and teachings offer timeless lessons that are relevant to our modern world. They remind us of the importance of faith, the power of perseverance, and the value of submission to the divine will. Ibrahim's story is a beacon of hope and a source of strength for those who seek to live a life of faith and righteousness. It holds deep spiritual significance and offers timeless lessons in faith, perseverance, and submission to the divine will. Ibrahim's life is a testament to the transformative power of faith and the profound impact it can have on an individual's life. His story encourages us to look beyond the material world and to seek a deeper connection with the divine. It teaches us that true fulfillment comes from living a life of faith and devotion. By understanding Ibrahim's life and teachings, we gain a deeper understanding of the importance of monotheism and the power of faith. His story is a reminder that faith is not just a personal journey but a communal one that connects us to a larger spiritual tradition. It teaches us that through faith, we can find strength, guidance, and a sense of purpose. Ibrahim's legacy continues to inspire and guide people of all faiths, reminding us of the enduring power of faith and the importance of living a life of righteousness and devotion. Ibrahim was born into a world steeped in idolatry. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the streets were lined with stalls selling idols of every shape and size. From a young age, Ibrahim was surrounded by these symbols of worship, each one representing a different deity that his people believed controlled various aspects of their lives. His father, Azar, was a sculptor who made idols, and idolatry was deeply ingrained in the culture of his people. Azar's workshop was a place of constant activity, with the sound of chisels and hammers echoing through the air as he and his apprentices crafted these figures from wood and stone. To Azar, this was not just a profession but a sacred duty, one that he hoped his son would one day inherit. Growing up surrounded by idol worship, Ibrahim began to question the beliefs of his society. He watched as people bowed down to these lifeless statues, offering them food, gifts, and prayers. Despite the reverence shown to these idols, Ibrahim felt a growing sense of unease. How could these inanimate objects, created by human hands, possess any real power? He observed the world around him with a keen eye and a questioning mind. The natural world, with its intricate beauty and complexity, seemed far more wondrous than the idols his father made. The rustling of leaves in the wind, the flowing of rivers, and the majesty of mountains all spoke to him in a way that the idols never could. He saw the sun, the moon, and the stars. All these celestial bodies moved in a precise and orderly fashion. Each night he would gaze up at the sky, marveling at the vast expanse of the universe. The stars twinkled like distant fires, and the moon cast a gentle glow over the land. The sun, with its life-giving warmth, rose and set with unwavering regularity. Could these inanimate objects truly be the gods that his people worshipped? Ibrahim pondered this question deeply. The celestial bodies, though magnificent, were part of the natural order. They followed laws and patterns that suggested a higher intelligence at work. It seemed implausible to him that the idols, which were static and unchanging, could be the true rulers of the universe. Ibrahim's innate wisdom told him that there must be something more, a higher power governing the universe. He felt a profound connection to the natural world, a sense that everything was part of a grand design. This realization filled him with both awe and determination. He knew that he could not continue to accept the beliefs that had been handed down to him without question. He couldn't accept that the idols his people worshipped, made of wood and stone, could hold any real power. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that these idols were nothing more than symbols, devoid of any true divinity. This conviction led him to reject the practice of idol worship, despite the potential consequences from his family and community. This realization marked the beginning of Ibrahim's spiritual journey. He set out on a path of discovery, seeking to understand the true nature of the divine. His quest for knowledge and truth would take him far beyond the confines of his village, leading him to profound insights and a deeper connection with the universe. Ibrahim's journey was not just a physical one, but a spiritual odyssey that would shape his destiny and leave a lasting legacy for generations to come. As Ibrahim grew older, his search for the truth intensified. He spent hours in contemplation, observing the natural world and pondering the mysteries of creation. He noticed the changing seasons, the cycle of life and death, and the intricate balance of the ecosystem. He realized that there must be a single, all-powerful creator behind this awe-inspiring universe. He came to understand that this creator was not a physical being that could be represented by idols, but a supreme, eternal, and indivisible being. This realization was a profound moment in Ibrahim's life. He had discovered Allah, the one true God, the creator and sustainer of all that exists. This newfound faith filled him with a sense of purpose and a desire to share this truth with the world. Emboldened by his newfound faith, Ibrahim felt compelled to challenge the deeply ingrained idolatry of his people. He had always felt a sense of unease about the practice, but now, with his faith solidified, he knew he had to act. The idols, mere stone and wood, represented a falsehood that he could no longer tolerate. His heart burned with a desire to bring his people to the truth, to show them the futility of their ways. He began to question their beliefs openly, asking them to consider the illogical nature of worshiping powerless idols. "Why do you worship what you carve with your own hands?" he would ask, his voice echoing through the gathering crowds. "These idols cannot see, hear, or help you. They are lifeless objects, devoid of any power." His words were sharp, intended to pierce through the veil of ignorance that had clouded their minds for generations. He pointed out that the idols they worshipped were mere creations of their own hands, unable to hear their prayers or respond to their needs. "Look at these statues," he would say, gesturing towards the array of idols. "They are nothing but stone and clay, shaped by human hands. They cannot protect you. They cannot guide you. Why place your faith in something so powerless?" His arguments were logical, his reasoning sound, but the people were deeply entrenched in their traditions. Ibrahim's words, however, fell on deaf ears. The people were not ready to abandon the beliefs that had been passed down through generations. They dismissed his arguments, clinging to their idols with a fervor born of fear and tradition. Ibrahim felt a deep sense of frustration, but he knew he could not give up. He had to find a way to make them see the truth. Determined to make a strong statement, Ibrahim decided to take a drastic step. He knew that words alone would not be enough to shake the foundations of their beliefs. He needed to do something that would force them to confront the reality of their idolatry. With a heavy heart but a resolute spirit, he formulated a plan that would leave no room for doubt. He entered the temple where the idols were kept and with a hammer in hand, smashed all the idols except for the largest one. The sound of breaking stone echoed through the temple, a cacophony of destruction that symbolized the shattering of false beliefs. Each swing of the hammer was a blow against the ignorance that had held his people captive for so long. He then hung the hammer around the neck of the remaining idol, a symbolic act meant to expose the impotence of these false gods. Let this idol speak for itself, he thought, if it truly has any power. This act was not just a challenge to the idols, but a direct confrontation to the beliefs of his people. It was a bold statement, one that he hoped would finally open their eyes to the truth. Ibrahim's actions infuriated the people, especially King Namrud, a powerful and arrogant ruler who considered himself a god. King Namrud saw Ibrahim's monotheism as a direct threat to his authority and ordered him to be seized and brought before him. When questioned about his actions, Ibrahim stood firm in his belief in Allah, the one true God. He argued that only Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, deserved worship. Ibrahim's courage and conviction in the face of danger only served to further enrage the king. Determined to make an example of Ibrahim and break his spirit, King Namrud ordered him to be burned alive.